Hello and welcome to the Globetrotter. Today we are pleased to have a personality who's well known in the travel industry. He really needs no introduction. Hello and welcome to the Globetrotter. Thank you for joining with us today.
Hi, Safrana. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
You have traveled almost every part of the world. Tell us about your first travel experience overseas.
Excuse my appearance because this is a COVID-19 hairstyle because I'm waiting for the salons to open to have my hair cut. 42 years ago, I was doing an accounts job somewhere. And I knew that was not my line of work because I couldn't sit at a desk and just, dealing with figures. So I decided I will join the travel trade, maybe become a tour guide or maybe a ticketing officer. And I was lucky enough to be given a chance of joining a company called Sparkling Travels long years ago, 40 years ago. And that's when I started my travel experience. But I started traveling maybe a couple of years later. I got this opportunity to go to Scotland and to Amsterdam. I can still remember my first experience in Scotland. Of course, those days, the airlines used to not only take you, but give you a per diem also. Pocket money to spend, which was fantastic for us because we were just, moving from hand to mouth those days, like, on a very small salary. In Scotland, I had this experience. I was very, very thin and, those days. But of course, could eat a lot. So we were taken to a castle. And in this castle, they had this whole, the real royal time, ceremony with all these fancy dressed, waitresses running around and, serving us stuff. So they brought a big bowl of porridge with some bread, which was, very nicely baked, and it looked very fresh and smelled good. So we started digging into that. I was just about 18 years then, maybe. So I ate that very well. And then comes a whole chicken for me, roasted. And well, I went into that as well a little bit. And then comes the lamb. I mean, this was a 7-course meal. And I simply didn't know that it came like that, you see. So at the end of the day, after about 3 or 4 helpings of all this, I had to undo a couple of my buttons in my trouser because the trouser was bursting. And thereon, I went to many countries, many trips, and from the cold to the Africas to the Australias, the Europes, everywhere. You see, covered the whole world. And I think that's the satisfaction you get. I always say, people ask me, how old are you? I say, I'm 150 years old. This 150. No, I said, no, I live. Every day for me is 3 days. That's the way I live, you see. I wake up happy and I go to sleep happy. And I sleep very well. It takes me 5 seconds to fall asleep. As Sarinder said, there was a long bucket list for him. I had actually no bucket list. So now I'm putting the bucket list together because I had covered it all. Now I have to just patch it up and see where I haven't been.
I have one place on my bucket list, and as an entertainer, it's a crime that I haven't even ever been. And I want to go to. I would want to go to Vegas because it's all the shows are there, and all the best musicians came out of there. But I never got a chance to go there, and it's going to be some time before I get there, I think. But anyway, let's see.
Yeah, see, Vegas is a funny story, right?
Yeah.
I was in Vegas. I've been in Vegas for about say 3-4 times.
Right.
The first time I was in Vegas, we went for one of these shows, and the guy next to me, I don't want to mention any names, that was a long time ago, he whispered and asked me, who is this singing?
Okay.
So I said, you haven't heard about Tom Jones? No, he hadn't, you see. So that was a sad affair really for me because I was over the moon and I was trying to get into the dressing room, which I couldn't do backstage. But wow, that's the kind of,
So
thing that you
you actually
experience.
saw the man performing live.
Of course, and he was pretty smart and young those days. I'm
Yeah.
talking 35, 40 years ago. Wow, in his prime, He basically threw his clothes across the stage, you see. Oh, fantastic performance.
Suresh, you spoke about cruises because I have to confess I have never been on a cruise,
Right,
and I can't I can't imagine being aboard a ship for like 4 5 days on the ocean.
right.
How does the cruises really work? Do you go 3 days?
Yeah. So there are cruises and cruises and cruises. There are cruises that takes you 14 days from New York to London, maybe like the Queen Elizabeth. You see, now that's a mega ship. You see, so that's a different cruise altogether. But then we have little cruises which takes you on a 5 day, 7 day cruise. Let me tell you a little bit of experience that I had, and that stays with me forever. I was invited by the Star Cruise Company maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember the exact date. Um, to join them to see their ship being built in Germany. I thought that was something very, very different to what I have seen all my life. You see, and this invitation came with a package of a air ticket, not only for me, for my wife as well. Me and my wife, we got ready. It was a 8 to 9 day tour, and we went to Germany, Hamburg. When we got off the flight, there were people to meet us, and we were taken to a grand hotel, a 7-star hotel in Hamburg. They were going to show us a ship that was being built in Hamburg, right? It was called the Genting Dream, right? Which was the biggest ship that was going to be in their, whole vessel line. And so when we arrived there, we were taken in a coach to this shipyard. And funny story, ships are built the same way that aircrafts are built. Genting Group is a Chinese-owned group which have a lot of bearings in Malaysia. You would have heard of Genting Highlands. They have their own casinos, and those are all Chinese-owned casinos. You see, so they are the owners of these cruise ships as well. So what they have done is to make sure that the production line is protected for themselves. They have bought over ship building companies in Germany, 2 companies in Germany, so that they get first preference. Then we were taken to the Genting Dream, which was an enormous ship. But of course, it was not complete. It was maybe 80-90% built. But of course, the outside was totally okay. It was ship worthy, otherwise we wouldn't have got into it. But the inside, the cabins and stuff like that, they were giving the final touches to it. So of course we were taken around, and then they took us to this enormous ballroom, and just 40 of us maybe, and gave us a splendid 7-course meal with entertainment. They have this sort of a cabaret show that they were going to have on board. So they had got down the artists and they were all practicing, and they did this one show for us. Then they showed us the shape. Fabulous. 4,500 guests, 4,300 guests can be accommodated on this. They have 1,920 staff members on board. They have 35 restaurants. Some of them you have to pay additional, some of them are in the package. They have 3 swimming pools, 1 standard pool, 1 for kiddies, and 1 for the VIPs, the guys who are in the suites. Let me explain about the concept of this whole, the room structure, the cabin structure inside the ship. You get the cheapest is actually on the lower floors. Some of them might be even basically below water level, you see, below sea level. That is a bit scary for me because I'm a bit claustrophobic. So I don't think I will get into one of those inside state rooms. But then it goes on to a porthole, where you can actually, from your cabin, you can see the outside, you can see everything, but you can't move out. Then the next level, of course, everything is add-on. The next level is a balcony room where you have a little balcony for yourself, and you can sit out in the nights or in the evenings, have a drink, whatever. And then the superior ones are the real suites, you see, where you get your own balcony, you get butler service, you get, you name it. It's a magnificent ship. I mean, it's like a whole city in the water. It was unbelievable when we saw it. There's a jogging track, which is about half a kilometer. That's actually around the ship from on the deck. Half a kilometer long. Then you got a mountain that you can climb on the ship itself. You got like a water park where you get even some of the slides that go out of the ship and come in again. Oh, it's absolutely crazy, and the children really go nuts when they see all this.
What are the cruises that you've been on? What cruises? Because
I have been on Caribbean cruises in the Caribbean, from the USA to Mexico, to Tijuana, which is a part of Mexico. I've gone on a couple of cruises.
does it stop at different ports and you get off and then explore the city?
It depends on the size of the cruise. Like, you get the 3-day, 5-day. So
Right.
from Colombo, there are cruisers which actually do say like Star Cruisers, which operate from Singapore. They do maybe Malaysia one night. See, it is during the night that the ship actually travels. You see, it takes off in the night when people actually try to go to sleep. You see, and they travel for about 6-7 hours and they stop. You see, and then during the day you get these little boats that come and pick you up and take you to the land wherever it is. So it's basically Malacca or Penang in Malaysia. Then of course you get Phuket in Thailand. So
Right.
those are the places that they go to. So you get different cruises for whatever price that you want to spend. You can have the exclusive one, like you can have a Alaskan cruise, which is, I mean, superbly fantastic. But of course, it's a longer trip. You have to actually fly over there to Alaska and then take the trip. And that is about a 1 week's tour there. So it's a long one. Coming back to my trip, which I did for this to see this Genting cruise ship being built. They got us back to Hamburg, and from there they actually chartered a little aircraft and took us all the way to Vienna. They took us on a river cruise on the Blue Danube River, which was absolutely stunning. And this covered this covered 4 countries. It was, if I remember right, it was from Vienna to Czech Republic, it's called now, and then from there to Croatia, if I'm not mistaken, and then to Budapest. You see, and I can still remember this butler who was called David, if I'm not mistaken. He came and put down our bed and did everything, arranged our luggage, and he said, "Sir, please call me when you're set. I will, arrange the drinks for you." So I said, fine, and then got set. And there's a little sitting area as well, and a balcony and everything. But this is on the river. But of course, when you say river, the Danube is huge. But the only disappointing thing was that it was not blue anymore. It was slightly grayish. So anyway, that was nothing to do with the river itself, I think. So this guy came back to me, the butler, and so I said I wouldn't mind having a Jameson, He said, "Oh, that's a nice trick." So they come, and he comes in and keeps a bottle there, all for me, in my cabin, and then pours me a drink, the ice, the kaju nuts on the side, and then once that is done, you go for a nice 5-course cozy meal. Then we go on to each country. When we land there, maybe Czech Republic, as soon as you land in there, the butler becomes your personal butler even on the tour. So he will carry an umbrella, covering you from the, well, of course, it was sunny there, which was summertime. And when you do a bit of shopping, and of course, My wife loved doing shopping there. He carries the bags for you. I have never had a holiday of that sort in my life. So, and of course, the places were beautiful. I mean, it was fantastic. East Europe is a place that you must always visit if ever you get a chance. It was fabulous, beautiful, and we had the time of our life.
We know you had a thrilling experience.
Of course, I have been to Africa many times, maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. And of course, I have tried to take my family also there whenever I could, because at least it's an experience of a lifetime. At least once in your life, you must visit Africa in particular, any part of Africa. But I have been to Kenya and Tanzania. Of course, in your previous program, you had Sarinder, who, I mean, he can actually write a book about Kenya. My first trip to Kenya was about 30 years ago. And, it was a fantastic experience, because I would say that Kenya was very different then to what it is now. They have protected that area pretty well. Not only the officials, but even the people who are running it, the traffic, the wardens, everybody takes pride in protecting that land. My first visit, as soon as we were going in, this was on the pathway to a river. There was a board saying, "Beware, zebras crossing." Zebras crossing. There's a board saying. So we just stopped there for a second to see. There were zebras trying to get into the river, you see, to have their fill of water. There were hundreds of zebras, hundreds. Now, when we see animal, we see an animal. Here it's like multiplications of hundreds, you see. And thank God they were in their pajamas. If they were in their evening dresses or whatever, I would have gone blind, because it was such a spectacular sight, you see. And even like there's a place called Lake Nakuru that we visited. I visited that a couple of times actually, where the whole lake is covered with pink flamingos. Right? If you just clap your hands there, they all take off. Oh, that sight I had never seen in my life. And of course, the wildebeest crossing, that also is spectacular. There's a cleansing system that goes on, where once the lions or the cheetahs, finish feeding, then you get the hyenas who come in. And hyenas have the strongest teeth ever. They can bite through any bone. Don't ever get close to a hyena. So they eat whatever they can, up to the bone. And then once they sort of have their fill, you get the vultures coming in. And they are the biggest vultures that you can ever see in the world. They come, they settle down, and not one or two. You get hundreds of vultures that come. And within actually 3 to 4 days, there's nothing left of the carcass. They clean it up thoroughly. So it's a cleansing system that goes on. Africa in itself is a very special place for me. As I told you, I'm not an animal lover, but anyone who goes there will be amazed at what they have to offer. We were in a place called the Treetops, which is sort of cabins built on top of trees. It's a little village on top of trees. So when I finished my dinner, and they have an artificial lake next to this. When I say artificial, I don't know whether the water is artificial or not, but they have a lot of artificial light there during the night. So they have lights focused onto the river so that you can see animals. So the guy who was in charge of my room came forward in the evening and said, "Sir, what would you like to see tonight?" So I said, "What do you mean? I just dream in the night. That's all I do." He said, "No, sir. If you have a preference of animals that you want to see, we will show it to you." I said, "Okay." So I listed my animals. I wanted to see a leopard if possible. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe elephant or whatever. So I listed out 5 animals and just kept it there. At about 11 o'clock in the night, there's a little bell that rang in my room. And I had to just get up, go to the balcony, And the animal that I wanted to see is out there having his little drink, you see. So I could do whatever I want, and it was like daylight because they had lit up the whole lake. It was fabulous. So that's the sort of treatment that they give as a gift when you go in there. Guests are looked after like kings, and that's something that always touched me.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank
joining
you.
with us
Thank you.
today.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Thank you.